Hello adventurers and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about power because I have been testing out a power station. As you guys know, I use a lot of power on the road, and so before I even share a power station with you guys, it has been put through a gauntlet of different tests. In order to make a video like this, I carried it around for at least a month, using it non-stop, banging it around on different things, and testing out to see if it really does do the trick, because I want to share an honest review. So first and foremost, let me show you what my first impression thoughts were of the Grecell power station as I did an unboxing. Okay guys, we're going to be unboxing this guy today, and I'm going to be taking it on the road with me for a little while and testing it out. Before we do, this is a portable power station, and as you can see on the side of the box, it gives us some ideas as to what all we could charge and how many times. I noticed that this says that you could charge a laptop about 6 times, so I'm going to definitely be testing that out to see if that is true. A 32-inch TV you could get about 4 hours of use with. A CPAP you could get 16 hours of use with. I could do 42 recharges of my GoPro. If I was doing a floodlight, it would run for about 62 hours. And then down here, a mini fridge about 6 hours, a drone 2.8 recharges, a smartphone like my iPhone 25, and it says here that I could do a switch for about 15 recharges. So there's that. Again, this is the Grecell portable power station. It's a 300 watt. And I'm really interested in this one because this one looks to have a fold down handle, which I really like. So let's get inside this box now. This might be a two-handed job. So let's see if we can do it with one. You know, I like a good challenge. Ooh, we did it. Okay, so first impression, we have a nice packaging so far. Everything looks nice and protected inside. Inside here we have a foam piece, which feels like it might be kind of tucked in and connected. Oh, there it is. Okay, so here is the power station itself. We're just pulling it straight out of the foam. And as you can see, this is a decent size. This isn't anything too crazy when it comes to size, so I like that. We're going to go ahead and pull this other piece of foam off and talk a little bit more about it. Okay, this is the T-300, and you can see it's a pretty simple display, it looks like. It's just going to have your display screen right here, your power, and then also there is a light. We have a DC, a USB, and an AC, all activated by turning on the individual buttons, and then here is where the input goes. So that's all pretty easy. Now let's try to see if there's any power. It did come about 50% charged, so I'm going to go ahead and top it off before I take it anywhere, of course. And let's kind of look around, okay? There's the light. Nothing too big, just kind of a standard light. Now if I was to turn on each one of these, it looks like it gives me a wattage readout whenever you plug something into each. There's no indicator that they're on with a light up here though, so you will have to look at the display screen. Now, size-wise, I kind of like this because I always like to keep a power station kind of by my door right here, just so that I can plug into anything outside. And this one fits pretty nicely with my shelf, so it's not super big. In fact, if I was looking at size, it's going to be about the length of my cell phone plus about 2 inches, and then it's probably the width of my cell phone. Now I have an iPhone 12 Plus, and so that's kind of the size of it. It's not super big. Something I do really like about this that I haven't seen on other power stations though are these corners. This is like a rubberized corner, and then also it has a rubberized handle, and I like that because, well, I'm pushing on it pretty strong and good, and any other power station would have already flipped over by now, but this one seems to kind of hold in place. So I'd like to think that while I'm going down the road, if I don't have this secured, it's not going to fly everywhere because it kind of grips to the bottom. But also, if I bang it into some things, I think it's going to do a little bit better. Now, the one thing I wish that they would have done probably is to go ahead and rubberize this part too, but all in all, I really like this design, and I like that the handle folds down. Now, something about this handle that's a little different than some of the other fold downs, it doesn't have a slippery turny thing This is actually just a grip. It stays in place. It doesn't go anywhere. So that is a big, huge positive. Now, something else that I'm noticing that I don't love is the fact that this does not have a cover. I just prefer when these have covers, just because sometimes things get in there, and if they do, they can short out your power station or short out just your DC port. So not having a cover kind of makes me a little bit nervous with storing it like under my cabinet, because things could slide in there. So I would want to make sure that I have this in a place that nothing could get into there. So that's going to be the challenge with this guy, but I'm going to try it out in a variety of different ways. And we do have a couple of other things here in the box. Let's pull this out. This is probably our cords. Let's see. Oh, it's another piece of foam. Okay. Oh, they're making sure everything is nice and protected in here for sure. Now, this all looks pretty standard. It's a 3-piece setup, well, a 4-piece setup technically, but this is going to be the charging block. And then there is a cord so that we can plug this into a wall. So those go together. And then you also have the cigarette lighter or the DC power lighter that you can plug it directly into your car and charge it. And then also we have an extender which goes for a solar system. So you can use this on a variety of different solar panels. So 3 different ways to charge it. So that's going to give me lots of options on the road. Last but not least in the box, it looks like we have the book. The book is always something that I keep up with. It's just something that is very handy to have for simple troubleshooting. It usually also has the customer support number and also some tips for you. For example, charge first. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing charged up. Now, as you can see, my van is tiny, but I have a lot of power needs. Just for all of you out there who are brand new to my channel, checking this review out for the first time, I use a lot of power hungry devices. A camera, a laptop, another camera, another camera, another camera, a refrigerator, and the list goes on and on. And so because of that, I am using a lot more power than the average person. So I try to put this into perspective as to how well each power station would perform based on a normal person's needs. So we're going to show some of the various things that I can charge using this device, but also how much power that they do take. So as you can see, this is the Grecell. It's not very large, it's not heavy by any means, and this is a 300 watt power station. So again, what all can this power? Well, we're about to find out. I'm going to show you some tests of powering just very basic things that the average person would have in their rig. Then I'm going to show you a couple of other things that you might be interested in also using this guy for, and then showing you if it would be effective for charging something larger like, oh, say, your fridge. First and foremost, let me show you where this power station has been living while it's been here in the van. Anytime I bring a new power station in, I set it right here so it's accessible from both the inside and also the outside, so that I can charge a variety of different devices, but also so that I can have easy access to all of those ports. Now, something I really like about this one is the ports themselves. There's plenty of them. They're easy to turn on and off, and then also that they're all on the front. Now, if you're looking at me like, okay, aren't all power stations all plugging in on the front? No, they are not. And in an upcoming video, you'll see what I'm talking about with a different power station that I'm trying out also. But let's get back to this guy. Now, this right here is the front of the device, and I've noticed a few different things about this. Whenever you turn it on, you'll initially just hit the power button, and you can see that the display turns on, but until you actually hit the USB, the AC, or the DC, you won't notice a lot happening over here. Now, the interesting thing that I have noticed is that you can run all 3 of these at the same time, but also that sometimes that can put a little bit of a demand on this guy right here. And if you have something that's a larger device, it may turn off the port that is pulling too much power. So for example, the other day I completely loaded this guy down. I had my fridge plugged in, I had 3 of the USBs plugged in, and I plugged in my laptop, which, well, if you don't know, laptops are just power hungry. It ended up turning off the laptop port because it was pulling too much power, and it wanted to sustain these 2. It did the easy math to realize these 2 were much easier to maintain than this guy. So you might be saying, well, that's really inconvenient. But in reality, I was very happy that it did decide which one was the better fit. The battery itself was only at about 40%. My laptop uses about 45 to 50 watts. per hour when it's charging. And so it is a high ticket item. The fridge was only using about 3, and each one of the USBs was using less than 10. So when you start to do all of the math on that, it was coming in, and it could have continued running probably, but it just kind of knew that it wasn't a good way to capitalize on that limited amount of percentage that was left. So I didn't actually mind that, but I did want to include that in the video so you would know. So now let's plug a few things in. Right now, I only want to focus on the USB. So I'm gonna go ahead and click these and turn those off. You'll see the USB out is still on. We're still at 100%. And this is something that I have to charge a lot. Batteries for all of my devices. So I'm just going to set this little battery pack right here, and as you can see, it has a USB end. We're just going to plug it into the USB connector, and then sure enough, there it is. We can see that the power is turned on, and right now it's actually not pulling anything. But why? The answer to that is pretty simple. That battery is already fully charged. So that means that it's not going to continuously drain your battery. Once it's finished, it's just going to acknowledge that it's done and cut off the flow to that port. So that's really, really good, and I really like that. But what about my cell phone? My cell phone definitely needs to be charged just a little bit. And again, it uses a USB, so let's plug it in. Okay, here we go, and into the USB. And we see that it is in fact charging, and it is pulling about 8 watts. Now, this will continue to just show you how much that you are pulling. It doesn't have an estimated time that this will be able to charge. It will fluctuate kind of back and forth as it's kind of regulating itself. But yeah, this is just the basics of the power station right here. Now, as we're filming this, guys, we are at a campsite, so it is a little noisy because the highway is here, but just go with me on this adventure as we explore further the Grecell. I'm going to be showing you a few clips right about now of some of the places that I have used this, what it kind of looks like when it's charging, and then we'll get back to a couple more tests. Now, charging can always be a question mark, not just for the Grecell, but for all power stations. And in fact, if you look up right now, you'll notice it's a pretty overcast day. And because of that, it makes it super hard to use a solar panel. So I've explored several different methods for charging the various power stations, and I have noticed that the 300 watt tends to charge a bit faster. So I've been using a few different things, such as running it through another power station to charge it. And then also I picked up a new inverter strip that I can do that with. That inverter strip looks like this. And because it is not over the wattage of pull whenever I plug it in, I can actually just plug this guy right here into my car while I'm driving down the road, and I can plug in several other devices so that they can be charging. Now, whenever you are doing this, it's very important to already know the wattage draw. So what did I do? As soon as I got the Grecell, I plugged it into my Jackery to see what number would come up on the draw, so I would know about how much that it would pull. And then I did some math to realize that this is 150 watts. That's still more than fit in, and so it is safe to use on one of these devices to charge while driving. Now, this is the official power bank, and it comes with 2 pieces. So in order to do this test, all I did was connect these 2 pieces, and then I plugged this end into the Grecell and this end into the Jackery to see how many watts this was in fact going to pull. So let me get this set up really quickly. I'm going to unplug the phone, and I'm going to set the Grecell right here so you can see kind of the size difference also between it and the Jackery. This is the Jackery Explorer 1000. This is the Grecell 300. So a 300 watt battery versus a 1000 watt battery. And this is the way that we do that. Again, we just plug this end into the receiver end and this end into the Jackery. I'm going to make sure that everything else is powered down from the Jackery and that we just turn on the AC. And once we do, we'll start to see a register number coming up right here. Right there, you can see it's pulling about 61 watts. And that 61 watts is sustaining pretty well. So again, anything under 150 watts we can use on the inverter. Now again, it can be charged that way through the Jackery or through the inverter, and that's really nice. But also, because of this particular port that it has on it, you can connect it to most universal solar panels using their universal solar panel apparatus. So in reality, this guy can be charged so many different ways, and I really like that if you have another power station, you can gauge it so you can make sure that you are safely charging it in these ways. Now, I have a couple of other power stations that I have used that pull way too many watts to use the inverter strip, and so that's been really discouraging. But this guy right here definitely can be charged in pretty much any vehicle. Okay, so next up, because I'm traveling with Riley, she actually has an iPad, so we're going to be charging it, and it uses a USB-C. So this is going to be a different charging port, and I don't personally carry an iPad, so this is going to be interesting to see how many watts it pulls. Now, to do this, all we do, of course, is plug it in, and then we're going to plug it into the power station. And we're going to look, it's looking like it's pulling about 12 watts right here. It kind of cycles up to 13, but still 12 or 13 watts is going to give us a lot of charges for this guy right here. Now, something I always encourage everyone to do when they first get a power station is to take all of those devices and plug them in. This allows you to figure out how much power that you're using and how much power that you're needing in addition to potentially. And this has been very helpful for me. A lot of times whenever I buy a new device, that's the first thing that I do is get it out of the box and plug it into a power station and hope for the best, that it's not going to be something that's going to be a big ticket item. Laptops are always a big ticket item, but especially if you use a lot of different programs like I personally do. So I know for a fact that even though this guy right here will in fact run my laptop, and it'll do a great job of it, I know that I'm not going to be able to get near as many charges on my laptop as Riley would be able to on her tablet. And I think that that is the biggest thing that we learned along the way. So will a 300 watt work for a lot of your function? Absolutely, it definitely will. But there are a few things that I probably would not put on a 300 watt power station. Let me explain. Do you guys see this guy right here? This is my fridge. My fridge needs to have power non-stop. Now, in nice cold temperatures, that means that it's not gonna have to cycle very much, and then maybe I would use a 300 watt, but in the case of using it for long term on a 300 watt power station during a summer month, I probably personally would not do that. And there's a reason for that. As it's hot, the compressor has to kick on an awful lot. And each time that it does that, it ups the power consumption off of a power station. So this is what I would do instead. I have a dedicated power station that runs my fridge. It's a higher watt kind of power station, so it's gonna last a lot longer. In this case, it is my Jackery Explorer 1000. It is a wonderful power station for doing this because I don't plug anything else into it. And it runs my fridge pretty well. Now, if I am parked in a place though for a few days and I need to get this guy out so I can charge it with my solar panels, I need something to use as a backup. And that's when this guy comes into play. Having a portable power station that's so small is great because I can take it all over the place. But in cases where I do need to take the big bulky power station somewhere because I need to recharge it, or in case that it's getting a little bit lower than I would like, the portable power station then can move in as a support system. And so that's what I've really enjoyed about the Grecell, because it is a good support system for having it and accessing that power. So it's a great complement to a larger power station for a high ticket item like the fridge. But in reality, this is why I really like the Grecell. We can pick it up, we can take it with us, we can move it around, we can do all sorts of crazy things. We can use it here, 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 and we can even use it here. And the best part of all of this is it's lightweight enough that I can move it wherever I need to. So if I'm at a campsite that has a picnic table, guess what? I can grab this guy, put it out there, have instantaneous power to my laptop. Guess what else? I can take this into a Starbucks and charge it. Done that, that was fun. Also, I can take this guy in a backpack. I can have power in a restaurant. What? So the possibilities really are endless, but there's a few other things that I wanted to share with you that I also kind of noticed after carrying around for a month. Whenever we were inside and I took some time to just fully like recharge and unwind, I did an overall assessment of what I thought of the power station, and well, here it is. Okay, so this is the Grecell that I've been testing out. and I labeled the charger, as you can see. Now, something kind of interesting about this though, is you can see the brick itself is not plugged in, like at all. There's nothing there. And the light is still kind of on. It's fading a little bit, but this actually holds a bit of a charge for about 5 minutes after it's unplugged, which is fascinating and very unlike the other power stations that I've tried. So that's kind of also something that would throw you off after you've unplugged it probably, but it's perfectly safe. It's not warm to the touch or anything, so that's good. Other than that, yeah, I haven't noticed anything strange with the charging process. Now, something I had noticed whenever I first unboxed it that I said was problematic, that over the past month of being in damp climate, I am noticing is a bit problematic, is if you look inside this port right here for the DC, you'll notice that it's looking like it's discoloring just a little bit. This used to be a nice silver like the outside, but now it's starting to show a little bit of oxidization in there. And so I don't know how in the long run that would work. I prefer something that has a cap on it simply because it keeps some of that moisture out. But with it being the way that it is, there's nothing I can really do about that. And even though I really like this power station, this would be the one thing so far that I've noticed that is a little bit problematic. And this is actually starting to respond a bit also when it comes to plugging in my fridge here, because the contact points aren't hitting like they're supposed to quite the same way, even after only about a month. So all in all, great power station, but this would be the one thing I would probably change that I've noticed so far. Otherwise, very durable. I still really like the fact that they have the rubberized edges. That has been super handy because I have been putting this thing through it as we've been traveling. In fact, whenever I was bringing it into the hotel that we're staying in right now, I noticed that I banged it on the cart as I was loading it, and it didn't have any kind of even indentation on that. So the rubberized edges and the rubberized handle really make it a lot more comfortable. And even after using it pretty much nonstop for a month, everything is still functioning on this. I use the USB probably the most on this. However, I have been charging my laptop also just to see if it can keep up with the demand. It's been doing pretty well. Okay, so one last test before we wrap this up. Let's take this guy and show you what it does when I plug it into my fridge. I'm just gonna let you guys know it does work. But again, I probably wouldn't use it as my primary power station in this case, even though it's like really good for everything else. Long-term items, 300 watts, there's just not a lot of power, but it's enough to work. Okay guys, this is the port right here. I have already clicked the DC button and now we just plug it in. Did you hear that beep? That means the fridge just turned back on. And let's see if it's working. The fridge is definitely working. It's sitting at a comfortable 35 degrees. And here, it's actually not having to pull any watts yet because currently it's pretty cool outside. But once this thing does kick in, the compressor gets about 20 to 25 watts usually on average during regular temperatures, and 35 to 40 watts whenever it's super, super hot. But as you can see, it's right here on the DC. Now that part probably is a bit confusing because you're probably thinking, but it's turned on, why is it not showing that it's pulling anything out? Well, I have an Alpicool fridge, so it holds a little eco battery. So what it does is it powers up the eco battery first, and then it starts to kind of feed off of your batteries. So a normal night in my van, off of a 1,000-watt battery, I usually use about 25%. So if you kind of think about that, that's going to be very similar to the entire life of a 300-watt battery. And so that's why I probably wouldn't recommend that for your long-term battery. It's just not going to go for a full 24 hours. It's just not, there's no way it can. However, if you do have a consistent flow of power through it, you can do that. It's just going to be a little bit problematic on that. So great battery, but maybe not for the fridge. Okay, so what do I overall think about the Grecell 300? Well, I like it a lot. I think it's a great 300-watt power station. There are some pros and cons. As you can see from the video, I did have a few little pieces that I definitely definitely found could be a bit better with this one, but at the same time, I really like the overall ease of use. This is a great one for portability because it's super, super, super light. I like that the handle folds flat and provides a nice like tabletop when I'm in my van. In fact, at nighttime, this is usually where my drinks are sitting so that they have a nice solid surface. And also I usually put like my baby wipes here so they're easy to access. This is overall been a really wonderful experience using this over the past month, and I definitely would suggest this one if you're already looking at it. It's going to be something that is going to be very easy to use in a small space because it doesn't take up a lot of room. And all in all, if your power needs aren't as big as mine, yes, yes, and yes. Again, I like to show all of the different power stations so you guys can get an idea as to what is available out there. We all have different needs. We all have different ways that we van life. And so by sharing this, I hope it gives you a better understanding of what the Grecell 300 really is about. I think that you're going to like this one if you pick it up. If you are interested in this battery, I will leave a link in the description box below so that you can check it out. One of you guys had suggested this one. I'm glad you did. This one was a fun one to try, and I definitely look forward to bringing it along on some more of my adventures, again, because it's super durable, and we really like this one a lot so far. So I'm gonna put it back in the van so I can get to charging some things. In fact, I'm probably gonna use it to do some editing later on, and well, it's fully charged, so it's a good time to do it. Till next time, guys, bye!